everyone. My name is Betsy Huff. I'm a senior customer success manager here at WayUp in Yellow. And for today, I'm the host of your program. Today's session, we're going to focus on how to be successful with getting an entry-level position in the data science, analytics, and statistics industry. We have three experts here from top quality institutions to talk you through where and how to start your own personal career journey, as well as sharing some tips and tricks for job searching in this industry. With us today, we have Tashima Daly at Bloomberg, Dave McGrain at CVS Health, and Kaylin Knoll at Discovery Financial Services. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you for our attendees as well. We're super excited to be a part of your journey. Let's get started by going over a brief overview of the types of opportunities available at your organizations. Tashima, do you want to kick us off by talking about the types of jobs and the program structure at Bloomberg?
Sure, thanks, Betsy. So Bloomberg LP, many of you might have heard or seen news articles or anything on media related to the financial markets and might think of Bloomberg as a news and media company. While that is partially correct, it's about 20% of our business. Really, our bread and butter stems from our Bloomberg terminal, and data is that core product. So many of you might be studying in areas where there will be lots of overlap on the opportunities that Bloomberg offers. Bloomberg's data department in particular really aligns to the data science and data analytics field. Bloomberg really runs on data and our data drives the market. Our teams are always working really collaboratively in order to ensure that all of our information in our Bloomberg terminal is 100% accurate, 100% timely, and 100% valid. We would never want a customer or client to pay for a subscription for the Bloomberg terminal and then get invalid sources. They could just go, online and search that up themselves and not have to pay a lot of money for that service. So really, where you potentially would come in at Bloomberg is supplying all that information, making sure that any information that we're pulling, again, is accurate, is valid, and making sure that all of that information is managed. A lot of that sounds like really exciting work, and some of it can be really manual. But as we know, data analytics is all about automation as well. So you might have a hand in also pulling all that information from the Bloomberg terminal and from other sources as well. Some opportunities and programs that we offer, primarily our internships, are for junior students. So if you are currently in your junior year, you would be able to participate in an internship program at the end of the summer of your junior year. It's a 10-week program, either hosted in our New York or Princeton, New Jersey locations, though we do have some offices in San Francisco if you like the West Coast. And then if you're looking for a full-time opportunity, our data department also hires in full-time. So once you're ready to graduate, we would be more than happy to welcome you into Bloomberg. I will turn it over now to Dave to talk a little bit more about CVS Health Jobs and their program structure.
Hi, everyone. I am Dave McGrain. I am a senior manager with the University Relations team over here at CVS Health. When you think of CVS Health, I'm sure most of you are thinking about that retail store on the corner where you may pick up your prescriptions or grab some candy for a late night fix. And we are so much more than that. There are over 10 different business products for CVS, including our Minute Clinics, our CVS Health Hub, OmniCare, Aetna Insurance. I could go on, but there are lots of different ways that CVS is more than just that store on the corner for you. And our opportunities are boundless for data analysts or anyone interested in that space, from healthcare analytics to insurance analytics to building platforms or doing cloud infrastructure to support many of our healthcare needs for our consumers. When it comes time to how do you get your foot in the door at CVS Health, similar to what Tashima had described, we also have a 10-week summer internship program targeted towards our juniors going into their senior year, also based in New York. Although we've been in a hybrid remote virtual capacity for a couple of years, we are looking to start returning back to offices in the coming years. And at the end of that 10-week internship, ideally, you can walk away if everything goes well with an offer in hand for a full-time role. But if you are a senior or a sophomore, there are some other ways to get involved as well. We do have full-time roles that we are constantly recruiting for, and we are always expanding our analyst, digital, and technical teams. I will now turn it over to Kaylin.
Perfect. Thanks, Dave. So hi, everybody. My name is Kayla Knoll. I work with Discover as one of our senior candidate development specialists, a fancy way to say one of our recruiters. Most of you probably know Discover as a credit card company, which is amazing. We're so glad that you're aware of us in kind of that capacity. But we also actually have two other areas of our business that we do a lot of work within as well. One of them is our direct bank, where we do like home loans and student loans and savings accounts and basically everything you can think a bank does, we also do. And then our third area that a lot of people are kind of surprised that we do is we do a lot within payment services as well, where we work with other companies to help support the back-end processes of their payment operations or their payment transactions. So like an example is Apple Pay. Anytime somebody taps to pay with Apple, almost all of that actually gets processed through Discover. So as you can imagine, we get a lot of data in from a lot of different ways from the business. So data and analytics is actually our fastest growing division right now within Discover, which is kind of where you all come in. There's a lot of different opportunities, whether that's in a full-time or an internship capacity, where we are welcoming in sophomores, juniors, seniors, and even just some new talent that have recently graduated. And our projects kind of vary pretty broadly, where you could be going into data visualization, going into traditional analytics, the data science side, even a little bit of the data engineering if you're really interested. So pretty broad array. The internships themselves are 9 weeks long over the summer. They're a really great opportunity to dive in. We do it a little different than some other companies because instead of doing an intern project or an intern team, you actually join one of our full-time project teams, where you have the opportunity to join a team of usually 2 to 8 full-time employees working on a specific project that is part of their full-time job. So you really get to see that direct impact and kind of the work that we're doing like hands-on and really see what it would be like to be in a data role as you kind of move forward in it. So it's a little bit about Discover, so I'll turn it back over to Betsy.
Awesome. Thank you guys for all of that really great intel. So Dave, you kind of mentioned a little bit about how to break into the industry, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. I think it sounds like there's a lot of different directions that candidates and students can go when they're considering this industry. So I'd love to hear about how each of you thinks that a candidate can break into the industry and maybe how they can gear their resume to really stand out amongst the crowd. Dave, if you want to kick us off, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Betsy. And as we know, a resume is generally one of the first things that any company will see when you're applying for any of our internships or roles. So that is your first opportunity to stand out. And I think the best advice that I can really give is be accurate and honest on your resume about all the experiences and opportunities you've had to participate in throughout your schooling and your professional careers. Don't just try to tailor your resume for what you think we want to see. We really want to see the true you. Doesn't matter what company you're applying for. All of us here completely agree. We are looking to hire you as an individual, not a carbon copy of what you think we want to see. So we really, really value each of your individualized experiences, even if you think it may not be related. There may be something very transferable there that applies to a lot of the skills that we're looking for, or characteristics of someone or working behaviors. I think in this particular industry, one of the key things to keep an eye on in your resume is, of course, all the technical tools that you are versed in. That is one of the very first things our recruiters look for when screening resumes for our internship or full-time roles in this industry. We want to make sure that you've had exposure to a lot of the languages or tools that we'll be using. Again, be honest about that. I know that I've seen some resumes where some folks can self-diagnose, I am an intermediate in this, I am an expert at this. But your level of expert may be someone else's level of intermediate. So really, we just want to know, have you had exposure to it? And where have you had exposure? How did you use that? So as long as we can see something like that on your resume, then we can start moving along to seeing how those experiences may be applicable for this job. And speaking of experiences, I know Tashima has some tips on that as well for your resume.
Thanks, Dave. Completely echo everything that Dave said and then some. Your resume really and truly is your best opportunity in order to showcase your strengths. For the most part, unless if you are going to an info session or a career fair, and if you're just applying to a role, the recruiter might not know you. So you really want to make your resume shine through, and that will be your best chance in moving forward in the interview process. Especially since data might come with a lot of technical skill sets or tools that you've developed over the course of your academic career. You might have exposure to maybe some programming languages. Maybe you are an Excel wizard. Maybe you love R or Tableau. We really want to be able to see how you've used those tools. So don't just list on your resume that you've had SQL exposure or like technical skills, just SQL and Python. That's great, and we love to see that, but we really want to know how you've applied those tools in your experience. If you have taken a course where you learned Python, we want to hear more about that course. Tell us more about a project in which you manipulated data using that tool. If you have Excel skills, make sure that you're able to really demonstrate how you've manipulated data in that manner. If you have VBA and you're really interested in macros as well, we want to hear that as well. So really use your resume in order to demonstrate your strengths.
Awesome. I love that feedback. So let's say we have an amazing resume now with all these really great skills. How do we really break into the industry? Caitlin, any feedback?
Yeah, I would love to kind of jump in. A lot of what was said kind of led it up to exactly what I wanted to say as well in this, and that get started early. There's a lot of different experiences that you can get, whether that's on campus to get started. So as Tashima said, getting that on your resume and talking about it, having those real life projects or having that experiences to be able to operate from will make you really stand out. So show kind of the experiences that you've had, even in just the class projects that you've had. In addition to that, get started early. So each of us kind of talked about different internships that we have. At Discover, we have like an early engagement program for all of our sophomores to kind of get some exposure into the field. So look for those type of programs, look for internships and apply early. It's crazy to think that the recruitment happens usually in the fall for a lot of these positions, for whether that's an internship or a full-time position. So getting started early will make it so that you get into your foot in the door a little bit faster, and will make it so that you have that long-term run. And I think this is given, but I want to make sure, because sometimes, like me, being a first-generation student, you don't know. Make sure that if you have an internship, it often leads into a full-time position. So getting started early in that capacity too makes it so that maybe you can get that full-time position without actually having to do a full-time job search. And I think I speak for everybody, that is so much better than having to do a full-time job search. So that's a little bit of what I would mention.
Yeah, absolutely. Like back to what you said, just really understand that when you're doing those internship positions, that it is going to lead to something. Understanding the kind of recruitment process for each company that you are learning about, and also the company culture. Really making sure that you understand the company culture, that it fits with you, so that hopefully when you do that internship and it does lead to a full-time position, you are, in a great place. Does anyone else have anything else to add about breaking into the industry?
One thing that I would also like to add that I just thought about is internships are a great way to understand what you don't like as well. That going in and doing an internship, you can work on a project, and that's a great way to say, maybe that's not exactly what I want to do, but I was able to talk to this person through the internship and they were doing this, and maybe this is the direction that I want to go instead. So using that as a launching point to explore different careers and explore different options that you can do in data, since it is so broad and like there's so many opportunities within the space.
I would also agree and echo what Kaylin said. One other thing that I would add is that check if your company that you are interested in offers something like an externship program or a one-day insight program. That way you don't have to commit 10 weeks to something that you might not like, but instead, and especially this is really great for you to do during your sophomore year, because as we know, junior internships often will lead to that full-time role. So really critical that you kind of focus in on the area that you're interested in. But early engagement programs will really help you to explore what you're interested in. And then you're committing maybe a day, 3 days, maybe a week most. And you get to try different company cultures and also explore as much as possible. And I'll turn it over to you, Dave, if there's anything else that you'd like to add.
It is a mix of being targeted about your applications for a company and having an open mind. As we know, with data, we are in a very technical world. So nearly every company out there has an opportunity for you, likely. So you can have an open mind and throw some lines out there and really see which industry really catches your attention. To Kaylin's point, try it out, see what you like and don't like. Or at the same time, if you're really passionate about something, dive into that company culture, dive into that job description and see, is this something that really catches my attention? Because as we all know, if you've got a passion for something, your quality of work goes up tenfold. So that's my other piece of advice there.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, we talked a little bit about understanding a company's recruitment process as we're starting early and really making sure that we're set up for success. How does the recruitment process typically work? I think sometimes as you guys are recruiters and me being a previous recruiter, sometimes maybe we take for granted that our candidates understand or our students understand the process through and through. So would love to hear a little bit about the recruitment process and kind of what that looks like with your different companies.
Yeah, of course. I would start off by saying that first, you really want to become best friends with your recruiter. Go to those info sessions, understand each individual process because they really want to ultimately help you to find your next home. That's really our day-to-day, our end goal. Every single candidate, every single student that I talk to, I want them here at my company if they're a really great fit. So make sure that you are understanding the full recruitment process. For example, at Bloomberg, we generally will go through 3 rounds of interviews. There will be a couple technical assessments, maybe some workflow assessments as well. Understand the time frame as well, especially in the fall when you are going through the recruitment cycle. We understand that you might have other priorities or things to juggle. So just make sure that you're being really transparent with your recruiter. Again, we want the full transparency. We're your best friends through this recruitment cycle. We want to ensure that we help you land wherever you are best suited. Make sure that you are being really clear when you are detailing any previous roles and responsibilities that you've held in prior internships. And then also be really honest with your experience. We want to better understand your experience. And let's say that, for example, you have some programming skills, but maybe you just did so in an academic capacity rather than at an internship. I would rather hear that and hear how much you have done through your classwork and how much you would like to improve in the future versus you kind of bending the truth in order to kind of match what you think that the recruiter or the business wants to hear.
Yeah, no, it's all going to come out eventually. So just be honest. We want to make sure that, you're going through the process and that you're enjoying it just as much as the recruiter's enjoying it. Kaylin, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, thanks so much. I definitely would add a little star next to that one. So make sure if you're taking notes that that's where you need to put it. But then in addition to that, you kind of can anticipate some of the questions that they're going to ask. Every single recruiter, every single interview is going to start telling us a little bit about you and why you're interested in this position. Everybody is going to ask that question, so you can pre-plan it. Now, I don't say necessarily script it out because we can also tell when you're scripting something, but do high-level bullet points of these are the major things that I want to talk about. I often say this is setting your agenda of the things you're going to talk about during the interview. So it helps you know, hey, I'm going to talk about my coding experience. I'm going to talk about my projects that I'm going to have. Anything that helps us get to know you better and see you as a fit within this position is going to be really helpful to make sure that you're successful in kind of that interview. And then the other piece is remember that though we love having kind of a variety of different skills that you're kind of bringing to the table, make sure they really relate to that future position, that you see yourself as a data analyst, you don't see yourself as a server. Because the serving role is a needed thing and you learn so many skills through that, but make sure they translate into that future position rather than kind of getting stuck in like what you did in that specific job.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that. Tashima had mentioned a little bit about the technical interview being a part of that recruitment process. Dave, can you tell us a little bit about any tips or tricks or nuances that go into a technical interview so students can be ready to rock that?
So we are in a unique business area or a business unit here with this group in that you get to really show off your skills to us when you're applying for a job. Not every job out there has that opportunity. It's kind of like you're trying out for the hockey team. You would go out and show off your skating skills and your shooting skills. Same thing when it comes to this world, in our data world. A lot of our companies will introduce a technical interview of some kind. Now, I don't say that to scare you. It's not all about getting the right answer. It is not all about making sure that 2 + 2 = 4, but it's about showing your work. It's all about how did you get through this thought process, showing us, are you thinking in a creative way, in an innovative way, and in a way that's going to really excel the quality of work that we're trying to achieve here. And I'd say that's really one of my biggest takeaways there is, make sure you're really showcasing in any technical interview how you're working and how you're thinking. Sometimes it might be a case study. Sometimes it might be a real life example that the company is. Sometimes it might be dummy data. Doesn't matter what the materials are. It matters how you're doing it. I know I was one of those students that struggled with showing my work, but this is definitely one of those cases. Show your work.
No, I think that you definitely hit on that. The other piece is, we recognize that you're not perfect. So Dave, you kind of alluded to this quite a bit, but we are wanting to, if you make a mistake, recognize the mistake. It's okay to have that mistake. We want you as a human being, not as a robot. We want to make sure that you are kind of bringing the skills that are amazing to be able to have through that. The other piece is really being able to think through proven solutions of how you can relate that into it, or think of it in a different light, because everybody has a different approach and different perspectives to be able to offer. And that's what we want to hire. We want to hire people that are different from each other, because if everybody was the same, then we wouldn't have growth and innovation to happen. So be able to see some of those other thoughts that you might think, oh, well, that's not how it's always done. That's okay. We want that, and show kind of that thought process through it.
I think that both Dave and Kaylin really hit it on the head there. I think it really comes down to being able to articulate yourself, articulate your background, your experiences. One of the key things that you can do is craft some sort of elevator pitch. You never want it to come across scripted, but be able in a minute or less to be able to talk about yourself. What are you interested in? What are your prior experiences as a high level overview, as well as why are you interested in the company? Make sure that that is really specific as well. On top of that, make sure that you're doing some sort of research. You don't need to know all the ins and outs of companies, because we understand that you might be applying to quite a few, but just making sure that you understand basics about, first, what do they do? What is the company culture? And maybe even their mission statement. What would they like to do in the future? And what have they done in the past?
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, let's say my resume was amazing from the tips and tricks you guys provided. I aced my technical interview. What's the proper way to follow up with a recruiter post-interview or just in general? Kaylin?
Yeah, no, I would love to kind of jump in on this. I would say that there's a lot of different ways to be able to do this successful. The biggest one is, don't just ghost us. So a lot of times people think of recruiting like dating, which is kind of true, that nobody likes to be ghosted in the end. So the recruiters never will want to do this to you, and we would hope to kind of have the same happen from you all. So stay connected with us, stay engaged. It's okay to follow up after an interview and send an email. I would say one email is probably sufficient to be able to say, hey, I had a really great interview. I'm really excited about this process. What are the next steps? And then following up 2 weeks later if we still haven't gotten to by that point. But stay engaged with kind of what we're through. The other piece is always be professional. That though we are very friendly, we want to make sure that you're being successful. We're not your best friends. So we want to make sure that your actions reflect kind of your way of being professional and recognizing that this is a job in the end, and this is an internship where you're going to be making money. And we kind of expect the same reaction from us as from you. So keeping it on that professional side is always a great place to be able to start.
Yeah, definitely. Dave, do you have anything to add there?
Absolutely. As Kaylin mentioned, don't ghost us, but also be really honest with us. We know that sometimes ghosting happens because, it's a very competitive market out there, and there's a lot of opportunities. So you may be applying for an internship at Bloomberg, Discover, and CVS. That's okay to let us know, and we prefer you let us know. We're not going to take that as a negative in your application process. But to us, we know you're trying out different opportunities, and it helps us really understand where you're at so we can work with you. As we mentioned, the recruiters are your best friends. So the more we know, the more we're empowered to go to bat for you in the application process. So if you do have another offer in play, if you have already accepted another offer, but you're still kind of shopping around, or if you have a deadline coming up that you're really trying to meet and meet an escalated timeline for something, there's no guarantees, but always be honest with us about that, because we really want to make sure that we're supporting you in this process. Because as we know, every interview process, it's not just us as a company interviewing you. We know and recognize it's you interviewing us as a company and how we handle things. So we would love that transparency and trust to go both ways so that we can always be there to support you.
Yeah. I love that you guys were saying, be honest about everything. I think something from my experience is that I think candidates were students were a little nervous to be honest and to really say, you're not my only prospect. Recruiters get it. Tashima, what thoughts do you have on that?
Yeah, definitely, Betsy. I want as much information as possible as I can get. So that way I know, one, kind of what you're dealing with, if I need to escalate a deadline or move the process through quickly. Sometimes it does take a little bit in order to get our processes all wrapped up and towards the end, though we do try to move as quickly as possible. But if you're really open, honest with me, tell me that you have a deadline coming up next week, then I know to reach back out to the hiring manager, see if there's anything that we can do in order to accommodate. If we can, we will. And then if we can't, I want to make sure that I can also be honest with you and let you know what the time frame is to interview, so that maybe you can go back to your other other employers and let them know what's going on. So just open, honest communication is really key. And then lastly, I would just say, just make sure, and we kind of touched upon this as well, recruiters are often really busy. We're sometimes juggling multiple roles. I would say that following up maybe once, maybe a second time if it's been maybe a week or 2 weeks that you haven't heard back. But really understand that at times, if you aren't hearing from us or if there's a delay in the process, there might be other internal things that are going on. So just make sure that you're being really respectful as you go through the interview process as well. Especially if you receive an offer from a company. And this is kind of a really good example that I really want to drive home is, if you receive an offer from someone and you aren't able to take it, there's another opportunity that goes your way, continue to be really respectful about how you decline the offer, how you move forward in the interview process, because you never know if you want to explore that opportunity, explore that company again. I had a situation in the past where I had an intern candidate. She declined our intern offer just due to another rotational program that was super exciting to her, and I was really, really excited for her. And then she got to the rotational program. It wasn't what she was expecting at all. Come senior year, when she was looking for a full-time role, she reached back out to me, and now she is going to be working at Bloomberg. And that happened because she continued to be really engaging, really respectful during the process. She was very honest about the reasons why she was declining. She did not ghost us and just never respond to us ever again. And I think that really does go a long way. You aren't going to burn a bridge by declining an offer or by not being able to move forward in an interview process, but you will burn a bridge if you kind of move about it in the wrong way. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, definitely. It's like Kaylin mentioned, like dating, get off the apps and then you get back on sometimes. You don't burn bridges with customers for sure. So to kind of wrap things up, I'd love to hear if there are any kind of final words of wisdom from you all, any funny stories and experiences that you guys have been through that you can share with the crowd.
I would say just make sure that as you are moving through the interview process, as you're engaging with different employers, to kind of double check emails that you're sending, double check your resume, double check your application if someone's requiring a cover letter. I often see, students might be using some template and then, we'll switch and swap out employers. Again, recruiters understand that we probably are not your only opportunity that you are exploring, but we want to ensure that when it hits the business side, that they think that you're the only opportunity that they're exploring, right? You want to ensure, again, similar to dating, that person is top of mind and at the forefront. So just make sure that you are really proofreading, double checking your work, making sure that you're sending things to the right people, and kind of keeping all of the wheels that are moving in order.
Similar, make sure you're checking that everything you're giving us along with your applications, but like your emails and your voicemails are all kind of set up to be in a professional manner. You are now entering the professional world. So emails that are XO, I love kisses, they get taken a certain type of way. I've had candidates who have voicemails that were extremely inappropriate, and we've called to leave offers and with extremely inappropriate voicemails, then rescinded those offers. So, you're entering that professional world, and whether it's you're sharing LinkedIn profiles, et cetera, we don't want you to hide the real you, be yourself, but make sure it's your professional self.
Yeah. One thing to add, like as we're thinking about email addresses, make sure that your email is right on your resume. Back when I was a recruiter, that actually happened more often than you would think. I would go to email someone and my email would bounce back. And it turns out that they had a typo in their email address or, an incorrect number in their phone number. So I feel like those are the small things that you have to really be mindful of. Kaylin, any last thoughts, experiences that you'd like to share?
Yeah, no, I think that what was said is really important. Like attention to detail is always, for anybody applying to Discover, we're Discover, not Discovery. Very different companies, very different needs. But no, I actually have a story that resonates really well from my own personal experience, where I went in and, like probably a lot of you, I was applying for a number of different roles, and every role has a different title and every company has a different expectation. And I went into a position not having looked at the job title ahead of time, and ended up going in thinking that I was applying for an HR generalist role, and this was actually a recruiting role, and I was talking about my experience in one way and so excited and giving all of these details about the company, and it was the wrong company. It was completely wrong. The recruiter was very nice and very sweet to talk through and say, I actually think that you have the wrong role. And lo and behold, I didn't get that position. But it was a learning lesson that really taught me to pay attention to those details, because that is going to really have the impact to show your best self moving forward. And especially for a data role, it's all about attention to detail and all about kind of those critical thinking processes. So having that kind of come into play on your resumes and your emails through the conversations you're having is really important. So don't make my mistake. Do the research ahead of time.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for your very valuable feedback. It's been a pleasure speaking with you all, and hopefully our attendees listening really gained some valuable insights. Please feel free to reach out with any questions, and definitely take advantage of any of the resources available to you on WayUp and Yellow. We're super excited to be a part of your journey. And thank you again to the panelists. Really enjoyed speaking with you guys, and I think your insights were extremely valuable. Let's open the session for Q&A now.